going to work on the Neverending granny square, and the reason why I came up with this concept many years ago is actually many years ago is that I didn't know how to slip stitch really well when it came to do granny squares, and you could always see one corner was always messed up. It always looked weird, and for myself having kind of an issue with that, I was never very good at it, so I developed the idea of going around the square non-stop so that there's never a point where you have to stop, slip stitch, and then chain up and then continue again. So I came up with this. I've been doing this for a gazillion years, and it's not until in the last 2 years that I can actually slip stitch and work my way up without you actually noticing. So let's now get started. In this tutorial there's going to be 4 of them. This is the 1 strand Neverending. There's going to be a 3, 5, and a 7. You need an odd number in order to make this work. So I'm also using today my tulip. This is by Karen, and it is a size 6mm, and I'm using the With Love, and this is called Corn Silk, and this is made by Red Heart. So let's begin this tutorial now. This is the back of my hand, forward of my hand, and I'm just going to create it like I normally do. And this is the back over the forward. This is the new back, taking up and over, and we have slower tutorials available on that. Insert your hook. This is chaining. This never counts as 1, sorry. So let's do this. So we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're now going to form a ring. So how we do that? We just take the hook, we put it into the very first chain like that, grab the material, pulling it through and through, and now you have a ring. So let's begin, and what we're going to do is that we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And we're creating the beginning of the square. Okay, so we have to provide 2 more double crochets here before we're done this particular side. Okay, so 2 more double crochets. Now we're ready to turn a corner, so it's always going to be chaining of 2, 1 and 2. So this will happen every time we turn a corner in this square. We're going to go back into the center and do 3 double crochets in a row. So we're going right into that center area there, and I'm using, if you haven't really noticed this straggler here, I'm just pinching it down so that it appears underneath the stitches so that you'll never see where I stopped and started, and I'll show you that again. So we're ready to turn another corner, so 1 and 2, and again just pinch this straggler with the ring, and then it just forms around each of it so that it can get stuck, and we're going to do 3 double crochets again. So you can kind of see on camera, because you know, trained expert and all that jazz, is that you can actually see the square starting to form. And now we have 1 more side left, so let's chain 2, 1 and 2 for the next corner, and we're coming in again for 3 more double crochets. Okay, and so now we're ready to chain 2 again, because obviously we've got to finish this corner. So 1 and 2. And we're just going to slip stitch it to the top of the beginning chain. Okay, so we started down here, so it's the very top, and this is the only time you're going to slip stitch in this project. Okay, so now what I want you to do is that I want you to chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I just heard an odd sound, that's why I turned it off. So we have chaining of 4 here, and we're immediately going to jump over to the next corner. Okay, so we're going to eventually ignore this whole piece right in here when we do the Neverending. So let's chain, double crochet. So we chained up 4. We're going to double crochet right into the next corner. Okay, and now this round is establishing the Neverending round for this entire afghan. So we're going to go in there for 3. So every time you got a corner in this project, it's always 3 double crochet, chaining 2, and then 3 double crochet, and I call that the 3-2-3 configuration. So if I refer to that in the rest of this tutorial, you know what that means. And the runway is the space between the corners, and then what I just do is that every time you're in the runway, you always chain 1 just before you do the next section. Okay, so here comes the next corner, so we're going to do a 3-2-3 configuration again. Okay, just do this corner. And you can see when you do the Neverending that 1 string is actually very simple when you do this concept. It's when you get into the multiple it starts to pull your nerves, and when you get to all the way to 7 you got to have a little bit of nerves of steel. So we're now in between the gaps again, so we always chain 1 and we come to the next one here. So again, it's the next corner, so it's the 3, 2, 3. So every time you rotate around this afghan, you are actually growing your stitches by 24 stitches because you're adding an extra one of these sections on the end. So that's the 3, 2, 3. So we're coming in. Okay, so here's the catch, is right here. I'm just going to finish this, and we're going to chain 1 because we're in the runway. And typically we would grab right here, but what I want you to do is that I want you to grab this space here. Okay, and what it will do is it will pull it all together. So we're just going to go there, and this will be your first corner on your Neverending granny square. Okay, so that's your first corner. Again, for the remainder of this project, it's going to pull everything in. Okay, so that's how we just jumped all the way around. So we're going to do 3, 2, 3 because it is a corner, like I said. Okay, and so now we chain 1 and we immediately jump into the next corner over here. Okay, so the corners are 3, 2, 3. Okay, and then we chain 1. And now we're in the runway, so this is the space between the corners, and you can clearly see there's no corner because this is a space. And every time you get a space, it's 3 double crochets in there followed by a chain 1. Okay, and chain 1, and we're back in the next corner again. So basically, after this whole rotation, everything is set for the remainder of this afghan because you will never find an area where you need to slip stitch because it just doesn't exist any longer. So let's 1, 2. Okay, and we're now back in the space. So again, chain 1. Okay, so every time you rotate, you get more spaces in between the corners. Then you just fill them up with 3 double crochets followed by a chain 1 at the end of each one. Chain 1 and back in the corner again. So you will notice it looks a little askew right now because we're in the beginning process, but don't let that fool you. It will balance itself out. Okay, so this is a corner, so it's 3, 2, 3. Okay, and then we chain 1, and again, so you can clearly see this is the gap in between the corners. So we just treat that as the gap between the corners because it's really no different. And we just keep circling this bad boy as many times as you want. Okay, so we chain 1 after that, and then we're back in the next corner. You can clearly see what the corners are on this particular project. So 1 and 2. And we just keep circling and circling. So the question then becomes is where do you finish this project when you come? So what I'm going to do is that you can clearly see I'm just going to go around and around and around non-stop to the size that I want, and basically I'm going to show you how to determine where you need to stop and how to stop in the very next segment. So let's fast forward to that point and I'll show you what to do next. So I'm coming up to the end and I want to show you how to cast this off, or fasten this off, I apologize. And how do I determine which is the casting off side and which is not? And you will notice that this blanket will not be perfectly square if you cast off or fasten off on the wrong side. And so what is the right side? So we got to look at here is that this is the center point right in the middle. You got to stitch out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you go from this one 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from this one 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one here is 1, 2, 3. Oh, where's the fourth? And that's right here. So we have to always stop when it comes to getting your stitches right on the one side, and so you can determine that by counting your stitches out. Now when you have multiple colors, it's actually more obvious than this. So we're going to finish this off, and So people think to myself, oh my God, Mike, you don't have a perfect square finish when it comes to doing the end, and you can't with the Neverending granny square because there technically is no end, right? Because you're obviously just going to run into this, and I can't just slip stitch to it. So what we just do is that this is the gap before the corner, and all we're going to do is that we need to maintain the space. So you have space, 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 space. And so basically, if I fill this whole section up here with more stitches just like so, you're going to end up with a whole section here that doesn't look right. So what we need to do is just chain one simply, and then right into the corner, all we're going to just do is double crochet in, and you are done. Okay, so you have that space that's been maintained right in front there, and you got everything that you possibly need, and you got yourself a perfect square that way. So let's cast that off normally, or fasten that off. I don't know why I'm using that language. Could be worse language, trust me. And I just snipped it, and I'm just going to grab my hook and pull it through. Just like that. And I just want to weave these in to the end. You can use a darning needle if you wish to pull it through, or you can just use it like so if you wanted to. If you have more time, obviously the darning needle is the better way to go when finishing off your project. So I'm just weaving this in, and like this is what I normally do. And I'm going to tug on it so that when I stretch it, you can see where the maximum pull is. And then all I'm going to do is snip it. Snip. Snippy snip, just like that, and there is your Neverending granny square. And as it gets bigger, it actually looks a little more square. When it's a little one like this, you can see that it's kind of pulling in the bottom here, and that is normal because it is so small. But when you get to the bigger sizes, you're not even going to notice that, because all of this will continue to balance out as you go and work yourself into a perfect Neverending granny square. Until next time, for more free patterns and ideas, you can check out thecrochetcrowd.com. And in the meantime, we'll have a great day, and we'll see you next time.